zoning.
Okay. Okay, Ben.
Mr. Chairman, sorry. So there was a handout request for decision symbiotic setback. That's 2.2I. So if we could make Hazard Fire Hall 2.2J.
Okay, 2.2I. IJ. Excuse me, I'm looking for that handout. Okay, that handout, request for decision, Rosebud Ecological, that's 2.2I. IJ is Ben and the Czar Firehouse. Okay, any other additions? Rex?
I just want to add a Division 2 council report under 4.3, wherever it fits.
Okay. We'll do it right after 1, Division 2. It'll be 2 point, between A and B, we'll do them in order. Division 1 report, Division 2 report. Okay, Don?
Just a question in regards to the new Carson Fire Hall and timeline for when they're going to be doing stripping.
Do we have anybody that can answer that? Ellen? Where would you like to have? Put that down as IJK. Okay, anything else? Bernice?
The Cheadle Baseball Diamond,
Cheadle Base.
just a report on it.
A report?
Yeah, they asked me to, and,
Okay, Division 4?
yeah.
Put you right after Division 3 then.
And a lady stopped me at a funeral, and she wants to talk about why Wheatland wasn't in the parade, so I don't know if that comes here or not.
You want to put it on as? I don't know. I'll put it down as L.
Do you
New
want
business.
to an L?
Parades, if you want that on in general. Okay, anything else? Motion to accept? Alice made the motion, accept the amended agenda. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Adoption of the minutes, June 20th, 2017, public hearing minutes for bylaws 21630, 21637, 21645, 21646, 21659, and 21711. Bernice has moved them all. Is there any questions or concerns? All in favor? Carried. And the July 4th, 2017 regular council meeting minutes. Alice has moved. Is there any questions or concerns? All in favor? Carried. Okay. 2.2A, request for decision on audited financial statements as of June 30th.
Good morning, Council.
Good morning.
As mentioned, on page 22 of your agenda is the start of the unaudited financial statements as of June 30th, 2017.
Ben?
Through the chair, if there's no questions, I'll move that council accept the unaudited financial statements as of June 30th, 2017 as information.
Okay, any questions, concerns? Alice?
I just have one in particular. How are you finding the taxes coming in? Are they coming in regular and no big issues with collections this year?
Yes, there's no significant issues. Collectability was right around the same amount as prior year. I believe there was maybe one company that is going to pay a little bit later, but there is no significant issues with that.
Any questions on the financial statements?
And further on that,
Any
how is-
questions on the financial statements?
questions are for?
On the financial statements? Ask it.
Well, that is a financial question for the revenue, I'm sure.
We have some financial statements on pages 23 and 24.
Okay.
And there's a motion to accept them as information. I'll accept any questions or comments on them 2 pages. You got a question?
So that $84,000.96 on the, which is the revenue for net property taxes. That's the variance, are we sitting at, and I think that's where the question is that about the same or is that?
So through the chair, the variance at that point is the over-under on the education levy. That has nothing to do with the budgeted revenue versus actual. So if you're looking for any uncollectible amounts, that would be in the receivable amount. So kind of the way that entry works is that it would be a debit to the receivable amount and a credit to the revenue account. So at any point when we deem that an amount is uncollectible, and currently we deem everything is collectible, there's no updates on that council should be aware of. Yes, so one update with, I guess, a question was posed to us from another MD about our outstanding balances with non-residential M&E and linear taxes. So it's very consistent from 2015, 16, and 17, with the exception of the one customer that I had mentioned. And they're just a little bit later with their payment this year. There's an explanation behind it. It was an acquisition of one company, and they're going to pay the linear amount later on.
Any other questions? Any other questions? All in favor? Carried. Thanks.
So I have a question outside of that to you.
Go ahead.
Why were you objecting to me asking about taxes? As if it wasn't on here. Why were you objecting for me asking the question?
What's your question?
I asked the question about.
We had a motion on the floor about the financial statements,
Yes,
okay? You're asking if they were being collected the same as other years. I think that's a question that is different than these financial statements. If you want to ask the question now, ask it now,
well, I don't
Okay.
agree with you.
okay?
Because
That's
this
fine.
is a financial statement.
You're entitled-
And he's making statements of the operation, and it's unaudited, we know that. So I should have a right to speak to how is the taxes coming in, if there was an issue. I don't see that I should have been interrupted, and as if I was asking a question about the moon or something. So it's just,
I'm sorry, Ellis.
yeah, I'm sorry
If that was your
too.
intention, fine. But these statements reflect of what's been collected and not collected. If you had any questions on the numbers, and they were more specific in Brenda's question, the numbers were there. You asked a general question that I didn't see was anywhere. So at any rate, the question's been asked, and we can move on. to Diamond Software Implementation Cost Update. That's on page 25. Okay. Any questions? Alice?
Now that you've got it implemented, how are you finding the program working for you?
Through the chair, very well. There's been a significant amount of reduction of staff overtime hours, which is great. We also mentioned that there was a reduction or streamlining of processes in the finance department as well, and those have happened. So as for financial reporting, I find it very well. We can produce financial statements. This past month, we just produced budget to actuals for specific departments. That was an item on the corporate services review that we followed up with.
Yeah.
So that's giving managers, management, senior management, and council kind of more up-to-date information on budget to actuals, where we kind of sit at any point or at any given time. So it's working very well. Very, very pleased with it.
Yeah, and I noticed that it's come in just a little bit under budget, which is, it's not a big deal, but it's nice to see that we're at least hitting our target on it.
And that's definitely our intention. Any costs that we do incur, we want to let council know.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? Ben?
I'll move it as, to accept the software implementation cost update as information.
Okay. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Facility lighting fixture replacement. Thanks for coming in, Brian. Appreciate the statements. Council's wishes. Alice?
I move the recommended action that the replacement of existing outdated light fixtures for the administration building, Gleason, Rockyford Grader Shop, Carsland Water Plant, with LED fixtures, as well as the following, the council direct staff to partially fund the cost of the replacement of the existing light fixtures in the, from the Capital Communities Reserve of $45,200.49, and to authorize the REEV and the CAO to sign the agreement providing the with the RFD. Thank you.
Any questions? All in favor? Carried. And request for decision, Attainable Housing Organization establishment. Any questions? Rex?
I did go through this yesterday, and best I could tell is a recommendation coming here that, actually, I don't see a recommendation, but would the recommendation be option one, assuming?
Brenda?
MLT gives their conclusion at the end of their letter, at the end, and they recommend a society. So, yeah, I think I'll make the motion, actually, to, I gotta go back up. The council instructs administration to incorporate Wheelan Attainable Housing Organization as a society under the Societies Act of Alberta.
Any questions? And reading this document, it takes maybe 5, I guess we can decide how many directors. Who are the directors going to be?
That's
Who's
recommended.
the society for? What is the purpose of it? We have other societies in the county that are committees of council, and they're in partnership with villages in the town of Strathmore, and they lays the groundwork, but what is this society going to gain for us? It's not a partnership with anybody. It's just a thing of council. And I'm not aware of council having any society or incorporation of anything of this. I don't know why we would do it. That's one point. Other point, why would we make another group, an entity, when we don't know how successful it is, how much work it is, what it's even doing? We haven't done anything yet, to my knowledge. It's still thinking about it and planning about it. I would think after we have a track record, some history, maybe that would be the time to have a society and have some different people that are maybe knowledgeable in it, or community people, I don't know. But at this stage of the game, I'm just at a loss of why we would get society organized now when I don't see a clear-cut purpose for it, or why we'd even do it. And what would really, one third thing, if we're going to have 5 members on it, and the 5 members are council members, what about the other 2 council members? If it's going to be 7 council members, and it's the logistics of it, it just doesn't, for me, make sense at this time. And then when it comes to naming it, we've already have a Wheatland Housing. I don't know if it's a society or association, or I would consider it a different name too, Wheatland Attainable Housing. I'd hate to have it mixed up with Wheatland Housing Management. Any other questions? Alice?
I'll try and explain it, and I'll get help from CAO. We have an economic development board already in Wheatland County, and this is part of the economic development board that they're working on, is the attainable housing within Wheatland County. That has been approved by council. And for us to work with attainable housing, we have to have an association formed to work under the attainable housing in Alberta for the government part of it. That's the main reason. And the board members are already the boards, are members of the Economic Development Board. It sits on the Economic Development Board.
So you're telling me that you can't have attainable housing without a society?
If, under the attainable housing, we have to have a society or a corporation, and we looked at both, and that's why we've gone to a lawyer to say what is the best for that, and the reasons given. So.
Can't quite grasp it. Any other questions?
Well,
Maybe on-
Alan, maybe you can help me on this. What am I missing that Glenn needs to know?
Well, what is the purpose of it? Do we have to absolutely have one? Like if we have attainable housing and if Alice has said it's part of the economic housing, then why not just economic housing do it? That's all it is. Why are we going to have an economic housing and then have an attainable housing, and they're the same thing? I don't know why we would make another society, especially when it's a council committee. Brenda?
From what I gather, the province requires, because it requires some kind of formal type of board to distribute the money to, period, end of story. That's what I gather, and that's my concept of it, is that the province requires some kind of formal board to release the money to. It would be no different than anything else, I guess. The same with Calgary. Calgary has their own attainable housing board. So that's what my assumption is on this, is the fact that you require your own board to complete the mandate of attainable housing. So, and for what the motion is, it's to go back to the motion, is to get the administration to move forward on this, I guess, and bring back. I don't think that council instructs administration to incorporate Wheatland Attainable Housing Organization as a society under the Societies Act. All that has to come back. Documents, paperwork, all that would have to come back to council for approval. So before you do that, it would be no different than the Companies Act went back to the Wheatland, under the Water Board. We had to review all the documents before we worked through all the documents on the status of the corporation. So I don't see why this would be any different. This is just the beginning of it to move forward, I guess. That's what I gather. I anticipate that the administration will be bringing us back the societies, all the rules and the bylaws, or find one that's similar to it and do that and bring it back to us. So for me, this is just to instruct administration to move forward.
Ben?
I have a question as to what's the plan of this attainable housing organization? I don't think we're ready yet to go to form a society until we've seen, like, what's the plan? What's your 10-year plan? What's your 5-year plan? What are you looking at doing? What are you trying to do?
Well, the board has looked at a proposal to bring attainable housing into Wheatland County through the Economic Development Board. In places like Gleason, we already have a developer that would like to work with the Economic Development Board and bringing that housing into our areas. So to do that, we have to have a society to work under the Attainable Housing Program. We can't just say we're doing attainable housing and that's the way it is. It has to have a society set up for that. And we're working with setting everything up. And the groundwork's been done on the proposed 200 and some houses that could go in Gleason. And it's a project that if it works in Gleason, it can work in any community within Wheatland County. So this is sort of setting the groundwork that could go on throughout the county. And I don't know how much more you want to know about that
Well, my question is,
financing and
you
what
want to
that's all
bring,
been done.
through the chair, you want to bring in attainable housing, affordable housing. What are you talking about? Are you talking about the county setting up a grant system where people, low-income people can come in and get grants and buy houses, and you've got a developer that's going to come in and develop a 200-lot area for the low-income, like, what's?
This attainable housing is done through the Alberta government. And if people that want to purchase attainable housing that includes the lot and the house, they would go to the bank and it would be all financed through the bank. They have to qualify for the mortgage and it's done through the bank, the attainable housing that the government has set up in certain banks, which should be whatever banks that they have.
Okay, so
So we aren't financing anybody, we're not doing mortgages, we aren't doing anything, that's all outside through the attainable housing program.
So what's the intent of the attainable housing? Build cheap houses? Because you
build
can do what,
affordable houses.
you can do what you've said right now. You can go in and you go to the bank, you get a mortgage, you go buy a house. So, and the average price of whatever it is in the area, that's what you're paying. So you're saying that you want somebody to come in and build houses that are cheaper than what's already in the area?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I just want to refer back to this because maybe I'd missed something at a previous meeting. So in Resolution 170615, Attainable Housing Initiative, Booth moved approval for Wheatland County Chief Administrative Initiative and bring back information to council consideration. So, and then further that officer to engage legal counsel to review the best structure for an attainable housing approval is based on the information provided in the request for decision. So have we, and have I missed the discussion about whether we want to proceed with attainable housing? Here we're bringing back the information for how it would look. Did we talk about, yes, this is a good idea, yes, we should get involved, which at that point would make this option 1 or 2 the next step? That's maybe the best way to clarify that.
Thanks, Rex. Bernice?
Okay, my question might not be relevant right now, but what is this going to cost the county itself? Like, how many times do you meet? What is the dollar value that we're going to be putting out?
I think those questions stem back from Ben's consideration.
Yes,
We
yes.
haven't had the discussion in council yet, same
Yeah,
as
I don't-
Rex has
I
said.
don't think there's enough
We
in
haven't had it yet, so we haven't decided what we want to do.
Yeah, I
So
don't-
if we're at that point, I'm thinking to carry out the first part of Booth moved, to bring the information back to council for consideration. Maybe if there's information there to bring to council, maybe that should happen first. I would be happier with, for sure. Brenda's turn.
So,
Whatever was said here, for the information to council for consideration. How much does it cost? How many houses? What is the thing gonna look like? How do you get it?
So-
Who buys them? Who finances it? Everything, the whole total package. I heard, let's go back to the water project. I heard that before. We all went through and discussed the water project. Why did you do that? Before we decided on having a cooperative for the water project, we decided we needed some water. We decided we're going to partner with somebody. We decided we did all that, and we actually started building before we had the structure done. I would like to see the same process maybe used here. I would like to see what is attainable housing. To ask that question here, and there's 4 of us left, going to have a different concept of it. And for me to vote on attainable housing to move forward, when I don't know what I'm voting for, I like everybody to know the same information. And then we vote on the package and a request for decision, same as everything else. And while I'm still talking, and I said Don had to leave the meeting, I don't think he'll be back for the rest of the day. Okay, does that make sense? So we go back, as Rex has said, to the original motion, administrative, and bring back information to council for consideration. That was the first part. And the second part looks like ask for legal opinion on which is better, a co-op or a society or whatever it was. That's fine. But for me, what is a society? What powers does it give them? What powers are you giving up? What powers do you get for a corp? And what powers are you giving up? What is the county responsible for? Can you be requisitioned? Can you borrow money? Do you have to have grants? Who's going to fund it? I think those are things that has to come back for an open and frank discussion.
And my concern is, it's not a question. I have no problem taking this information that we got back from legal as information, to take it as information for now, but to move ahead and set up a society for something that I'm not sure, 'cause when you say affordable housing, you're still not explaining to me what affordable housing is, because I know what some of these houses are worth in these small communities. And if you're gonna build something there to make it affordable for some of these other people, you gotta have some pretty cheap housing for them.
So I can answer
So
that
who's coming
question.
out to buy who's coming out to buy all these houses?
Affordable housing is housing that is under the government's mandate of attainable housing, is housing starting at around the $250,000 mark, and it can go up. But what we're looking at is around the 250,000, which is in that category of attainable housing. Calgary's is starting at $500,000 plus. And,
Calgary's average is 425,000.
well, depending where you are in the city, it's
Calgary's
different.
average is 425,000. That's the average. But when you say,
So, okay, just let me finish before I'll tell you what I know of what we've done so far. And to look at, you're saying people can go and buy it. Well, in all our communities, and being on the Economic Development Board, that's the mandate of the board, is to go out and look at those kind of things for Wheatland County. So I agree, I think we need to have more information come back to the council to look at so that you understand what attainable housing is. Attainable housing information out there in the public is all over the map. We found that out. But what we're looking at is to do the development, which is the land, the home, the house, and make it so that it's very adaptable to all communities, that you can take it to Carsland, you can take it anywhere, and put that same development in any of the communities within Wheatland County. And the funding right now, it depends on whether the county has land available. In Gleason's situation, it is. So that would all have to be looked at. And build the houses as the houses are needed. We're not going to go out and build 200 houses and say, here you are. It's a progression. It's what we're looking at, so many houses at once, one time, and then when those are sold, develop more and more as you go until we have the designated amount that we have agreed on, which could be 150 or 200 or whatever. And the financing is done through the Alberta government, which would be the banks that they set up to say, I want to buy a house. I have to go and qualify, pay the down payment to the bank. The payments are all made at the bank. So the county has nothing to do with the financing in that respect. That's all handled through the program, the Attainable Housing Program. Okay?
Okay, thanks for that snapshot, Alice.
That's
But-
a snapshot, yeah.
But for me, I would like to, Ellen?
So there is a motion on the floor. Yes. But I guess what I'm hearing is you want the business case for the attainable housing. Is that what I'm hearing? Okay. I think I understand what you're saying.
Before we,
But there is a motion on the floor.
Right,
And this is the motion on the floor.
to set it up. So,
One of the options that council could choose, Mr. Chairman, is, and that's up to Councillor Knight, because she's made the motion, is to accept this as information, and we'll come back with the business case.
okay. I think that motion's already been made.
I have, but I can
No,
amend
here
it.
Booth said to bring the information back. That motion has been made, I'm thinking. But now the motion is to set up a society. I'm asking you if you would amend your motion to accept this as information Or do you want us to vote on accepting the, and set up in a society?
Well, could we not, administration to provide a business case? I can amend my motion to take out the structure, to include the structure. Because if you're going to do a business case, I would presume that you're going to look at the structure as well, Alan. Right? I know that. But what I'm suggesting is that council instruct administration to create a business case and to include options for
If you want to make that motion, I'll accept that.
incorporating, best recommendations for incorporation of such an organization. Is that?
So
I would change
we would
my
have to
motion.
engage an outside party to do the
Yeah.
business case, Mr. Chairman, to do it properly.
Yeah.
That needs to be reflected in the motion, I believe, to engage, instruct administration to engage an outside party to develop a business case
That's right.
or provide the business case.
Okay, so is that your motion, Brenda?
Sure, you all right with that?
Amend it to that?
To,
Okay.
and to include the recommendation of incorporation in that. No, to include the recommendation of incorporation. Let them look at whether it should be the Societies Act or the companies, to include that as part of the business case.
No.
Let them build a business case.
And they very well have a different opinion.
Telling them to build a business case around having
Well, no, on just how to incorporate, I guess.
I would just,
Well, we've already got that recommendation here. We don't need to have another one unless you feel it's necessary.
build a business case by an outside party and accept this report as information, is what I'm hearing from Ben.
Okay, so what do you got, Margaret?
Is that your amended motion? Or what
Give me
is
my
the
amended
motion,
motion.
Brenda? I'll let you state your motion, then we'll
Well,
vote.
I'm going to see what Margaret, because Margaret has taken what she got down,
Okay.
please. Okay,
Okay, let's just leave it at that for now.
Yeah.
And then we'll make a motion on this presentation separately.
yeah, I'm okay with that, yeah.
Okay, you making that motion, Brenda?
Yeah,
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Carried. And this,
this information,
okay. The legal opinion is information. Right? Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, request for decision. Environmental Action Plan, second quarter report. Okay. Any questions? Okay. Bernice has moved. Is there any questions? Alice?
On this environmental program, I don't think as a council we've had any kind of a discussion, or is this being set up by regulations coming down from provincial and federal? Maybe that's a question for Alan to answer, because I see we're setting up this environmental program, but what do we as council know about it? Nothing. In my opinion, nothing. So I don't know why I'm voting on it, because council hasn't got an action plan that I know of. So are we going to have any input on it, or where's the information coming from? Are we combining federal, provincial, and what we're doing here? I guess that's kind of the question I want answered. Maybe somebody can answer that for me? Sorry.
No, that's okay. Through the chair. So this program, so we brought the program as information to you in March of 2017. So what we did internally, and I can't recall, Alan, can you, how much we brought to council before that? We've brought information to you a number of times over 2016 and into 2017. And what we committed to in the information that you guys accepted in March is that we would bring quarterly reports on the environmental program to you. So that's what this report is. Maybe Alan can give you a little bit of the background.
So the 2017 Environmental Action Plan was approved by council in principle, and that's what we've been working on. And council instructed us to bring back quarterly reports where we're at with that. Engagement in the community has been, at this point, minimal. We're just getting the groundwork in place. And once that starts, that's going to be in 2018. That's phase 2 or phase 3, right? Is that correct?
So as far as public consultation goes, we did run 3 open houses earlier in the year. We had very good attendance in Rosebud. We held them in Nameka and Hazar as well, and had a few ratepayers show up to those as well. So we did get a little bit of public input, and the purpose for that was to put feelers out for what kind of projects that the public would like to see us do as far as environmental awareness or environmental stewardship goes. So the idea for that is, yes, that they will be incorporated into next year's environmental action plan, which is kind of the idea to bring forward a yearly plan as what the county is doing for the environment. So.
Okay, that answers part of it. Maybe then my question needs to be with council. How involved do we want to be? Are we going to have some kind of a discussion and where we want to look at or put our input in? I guess that's up to council, eh? Mm-hmm. So maybe once all that information's done, would it be appropriate to have council discuss it at that time and maybe put some of our input?
Mr. Chairman, that's the intent. We need to have information to provide to council before you
exactly.
can make any decisions. So that's the intent of gathering the information that the staff have been doing. That's why I say in 2018, there'll be more engagement with council on this.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
council, my recollection of council was, and it was, I guess, our recommendation to council, and council supported it, was we wanted the municipality, the people in municipality to lead this, not council to lead this and say, this is what you need to do. Correct? And if I misunderstood that, then, so that's the kind of the intent, is get the information, bring it back to council, and then go from there. That's the way most of these are run that I understand. Is that correct, Alyssa? But Alyssa knows a lot more about it than I do, so she can answer.
Yeah,
better than me.
and my question is because I feel like it's being produced, which is great. That's what we want. But I'm feeling like I'm left out and not knowing where it's going or what is expected.
Exactly
and
why
it all
we're
comes
yeah.
back to council in the end,
Yeah,
so.
exactly why we're doing the quarterly updates. If you want
Yeah.
updates more often, I guess we can do it every 2 months, I suppose. But the quarterly updates is what was asked. So if you want it more often, we can certainly do that so that you feel more informed. That's not a problem.
Okay.
Well, maybe a problem. I shouldn't speak for Alyssa, but I think Alyssa can probably accommodate more regular updates. But we were directed to do quarterly, and that's what we've been trying to do, and we've
Okay.
been. Alyssa's done a fantastic job doing that. This is the second one that you've seen, yes.
Council's wishes.
Well, Alyssa's here to answer any questions in the report. That's the intent, is to bring it back and get feedback.
This is our discussion time.
That's correct. Yeah, and that's why Alyssa's here, and Russ is here as well. Sorry, I didn't want to neglect Russ, but.
I guess going through it, there's some things that I recognize and we talked about previously. And there's a couple other ones that are new but make perfect sense to me. As far as a report of where you're going, for me, it's great. Continued up. I did get some feedback about your presentations out in the community, and they thought it was great, yeah. Only I missed the one, and I guess I can't go to everything, so. But yeah, I don't have much of a problem, but if council would like to add something on here or take it off, this is the time to do it. Outside of that, I don't think I got a motion for anything yet.
So if I may add a quick note, just
Sure.
about where the projects did come from for 2017, I think it might help with your, just to clarify a few things for you. So with this environmental action plan for 2017, we established something called an environmental steering committee amongst staff within the county, just for these initial kind of startup years, and brought together expertise from all of the departments and talked about just what kind of projects we were doing in the upcoming year that had some aspect of environmental stewardship to it, or just, I guess, anything that does something good for the environment. And so what we did was we pulled together things that we could accomplish in 2017, and that were already in the plans, or that additional things that we thought might benefit the county at this time. Moving forward, the intention is to bring together public opinion and staff opinion and council opinion if you do wish to provide it. So that's definitely something that the program easily allows for. So if that helps.
How's the carpooling going? I know there was sort of a, not sort of, I believe it was a competition there at one time.
It was, yeah. It actually went well. So we ended up having nearly 50 carpools happen. Most of them are to and from Strathmore, but people really did embrace it in the office here. So it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got some co-op, or what was it? Canadian Tire gift cards for the winners. So it was, yeah, people were quite pleased, I think.
Okay. Any other questions, Ben?
Well, not a question. I'll just move it as information, and thank you very much for putting it together. And it's ongoing, I'm assuming.
Yes. Any other questions or concerns? All in favor? Carried. Thanks for coming in. Request for decision. Advisory committee member from Mistakis. Okay. Is he volunteering? Okay, any questions? Rex?
So one member of administration, so is that an open member as such, whoever can make it goes, or do we need, or CAO nominates who he feels needs to go? Am I one ahead? No.
Yeah, you're right. Member of administration. So usually how it works, we ask administration, put a member on, and the CAO picks, because that's our employee. Yeah, that's our employee. Yeah. That's the process we use, yeah. We might,
So through the chair, is there, excuse me, through the chair, is there a problem? Because in here it says that they needed to know by the 26th of July, so that's not an issue?
Yeah, through the chair, it all kind of came about when I was on holidays, so there was an email that had went out wondering about sitting on this committee. In the interim, when I got back from holidays, I talked to them, and their suggestion was to have somebody from administration sit just to balance the committee out. So there will be council members, there'll be A, M, D, and C. So they did want somebody within administration that would be dealing with these type of applications. So they're a little bit behind, so no, the deadline doesn't matter. To date, I've got a questionnaire to fill out just as kind of a base for their advisory committee. And I sat down with planning and development and got some comments from one of the development officers to submit. So as far as a member of administration, I would see either myself or a member from planning and development sitting on the committee. Either way, the information would be flowing back and forth between departments and of course, council,
Okay.
so.
So I'll move that we ratify the approval for one member of administration to sit as an advisor, committee member for the Mestakis Wind and Solar Decision Support Tools for Rural Municipalities in Alberta, because I think we're going to get more of it. We're getting lots of solar coming in. We've already got wind, so I think we need to know what's going on out there, so.
Okay, Ben's
So,
moved. Is
Mr.
there-
Chairman, with that, I think Russ would probably commit to bring back the information, or whoever attends the meeting, correct? What's going on there, so you guys are well informed on that, so.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, just for clarification on what Alan's saying, would that come back to council or come back to the Ag Service Board? Would this be an Ag Service program?
I think it would probably, I would suggest come back to council, then it would be more current. But we can take it back to the Ag Service Board as well. I would suggest we do both. That, because we have the public members on there, but to wait, was it 3 months before we have another Ag Service Board meeting? That might be a little too dated for the information, because it's moving fast, I think. So. To the Ag Service Board, yes, certainly. So I think we'd endeavor to bring it back in both. So probably Russ's report would go in with Angie's report as, one of the one-pagers or two-pagers as information, and then the Ag Service Board, Russ would put that as probably his report. Does that make sense, Russ? Yeah.
Is there any sort of a timeline on when they hope to be done or get some recommendations out?
Yeah, through the chair, I guess considering they're already kind of behind where they wanted to be, I think initially for this phase one, they were hoping to be done September, like the end of September, October, and then start fundraising for phase two, which is the development of the tool. So the timelines are fairly tight, at least so far.
Yeah, I know the timelines are tight, but we're getting people wanting to come in and do it. And I would like to see it done before we entertain. It's nice to, doesn't look good if we approve something and then 4 months later get a different type of report. But yeah. Okay, any other questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for coming in. Request for decision, Bill and Jeanette Murray recognition plaque.
So, just through the chair, I was invited to this event post last council meeting. So in order to make it happen, I had to get acting Reeve, Deputy Reeve Armstrong's permission through Jim Laszlo to make this happen. And we did do this, hoping that the ratification wouldn't be an issue. So I did email you just late this morning a picture of the plaque that was sent. And then I presented it to Bill and Jeanette on Holiday Monday, which Councillor Knight was in attendance. So I would normally I would make the motion to go ahead with the recognition plaque, but since I've already went ahead and done it, I would seek somebody else's.
Ratify your actions.
You sure? Yeah. Okay, well then I have no problem with that then. Then I'll make the motion that council approve ratifying the decision of Division 2 Councillor for the plaque for Bill and Jeanette Murray on their 51 years in business and community spirit.
Okay, any questions? All in favor? Carried. Request for support, uncollectible school tax and senior housing requisitions. Any questions, comments, thoughts?
So, Mr. Chairman, I can give an update on where we're at. Uncollected school tax in 2014 was about $40,000 for Wheatland County. $40,223.49. 2015, it was $55,730.32. And 2016 tax year, it was $101,373.10. And
That's
this,
the actual tax of school?
that's the school that's been, yeah,
Okay.
uncollected. So it's fairly minor compared relative to what Stettler is facing in some of the other municipalities. In 2017, however, it's at 1.2 million. And that's primarily because, as Mr. Henderson pointed out, there's one firm that just bought an asset, a major asset in the county. And that one firm is 1.1 million of that 1.2 million outstanding. So they have full intentions to pay the taxes. They're just completing the sale and they will be paying the taxes by the end of the year. So we don't have any issue with them. They have other assets in the county and they pay them. It's just the transition of the asset. They haven't paid the taxes. So although there is some outstanding linear and non-residential and M&E education tax is not as substantial as Stettler, but we do have some effects. So.
Having said they're going to pay it, does penalties still apply?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I guess the point is, it's not in the millions of dollars we're outstanding. It's just this year we're a little behind, but in previous years, like I say, it's a lot less than what Stettler's facing. So they've asked for a letter of support, I believe, with this, and it may be prudent to provide that from council.
Okay, council's thoughts, wishes? Alice?
I'll make a motion that we send a letter in support of the request from the County of Stettler, number 6, and appropriate comment from council to support the action that they're asking for. I think that maybe we don't have as big a problem, but if you add our school tax with all the other counties throughout the province that isn't collecting, it's a huge amount of money. And so if we band together, maybe we can possibly change the provincial government's idea of forcing all the counties to pay the tax to the school regardless of whether they can collect it or not. If we don't stand together, we're not going to resolve this issue ever. It'll just keep going on and on to the next council, next council. So I think we have to support it because it's a bigger picture all over the province. It may not hurt us individually, but collectively, that's a lot of money that's not being collected. So I would say we support this request.
It's your motion?
Yes.
Any questions, thoughts, or concerns? I guess having said that, Alice, for me, it's not an issue of how little money or how much money we owe. It's a question of the fairness and the appropriateness of the way they do it. That, for me, is procedures paramount. Any other questions? Alan?
The province of Alberta does have a program, and you can make application, and we have made application numerous times for uncollected education tax, and we've been refused every time. So just so you know that there is a program there, but it's relatively hard to access for rural municipalities. Urban municipalities, I've been able to access it before, but not for rurals for some reason. I'm not sure why that is. So I think it's worthwhile to support this endeavor.
Further to that, through the chair, Alan, should we somehow incorporate that into this letter? Okay.
Keep
All
it in
right.
your hip pocket.
Thank you. Yeah.
Any other questions? All in favor? Carried. Oh, lunchtime. We'll break for lunch.